Hey everyone, Michelle here and welcome back to my channel and welcome to my February wrap up. So February was a good month for me. If you watched my TBR video, you will know that I wanted to read these 8 books. I read them, so along with the 8 books that I wanted to read, I read more. As you will have seen, or if you're new here, I did a challenge where I wanted to read 6 books in 6 days, inspired by Beth at the Book's Nest. I will link her video down below, which meant I completed my TBR for February about nearly 2 weeks in advance. So I read some more books, 5 to be exact. So with me reading 5 extra books, it means this video might be a teeny bit longer than my normal TBR video, but I do promise to try and keep it short as well. I won't go into great detail about the books, don't worry. When I get to the 6 that I read for the reading challenge, I will link the video down below for that, because I spoil them. So really, that has all my thoughts in it, that video, but I will still say something in this one. So I will stop rambling and get on with the wrap up. So the first book I read in the month of February was Afterland by Lauren Bukes, and I gave this book 3.5 stars. In this book, you follow 3 members of the same family who are trying to navigate a new land as the world has been riddled by a pandemic. 95% of the men in the world have been killed by this illness. So you follow a mother who has for the past year lived in a prison / hospital run by the government to protect her son, who is a teenager, well, soon to be teenager, where they're basically running tests to see if they can eradicate this disease and to breed him when he's older. There are very few men and boys, I should say, who live and don't get this disease. The 3rd member of this family is her sister, who is trying to sell him to a lady for nefarious reasons, I will say. But you do switch back to see what life was like before this disease and during, and it's quite good. I have actually sticky noted a couple of places. So the first place I sticky noted, is that word? I'm going to go with that. So the first thing I sticky noted was something that I felt was very apt for now. You can't imagine how much the world can change in 6 months. You just can't. Obviously we're in a pandemic right now. Well, hopefully coming out of it, touch wood. So very apt. And I also sticky noted where it said, well, some more information, I should say, about this disease. So basically it's like a cell mutation which basically gives all the men who get it cancer, which in itself is horrible. But to hear that you literally, if you get it, you're dead, whereas now with cancer people do survive, it was a bit like, oh wow. And here are the numbers of how many people get it. Conservative estimates from those self-same experts on multiple continents reckon that HCV might kill between 500 million and 1 billion men. That's up to 1/8 of the world's population and 1/4 of the male population. And then you find out the actual numbers. Current estimates as of the 18th of January 2023 are 3.2 billion men, boys and people with prostates dead, including this article's author Mark Harrison, which leaves about 35 to 50 million boys and men alive around the world. that's a scary prospect, especially since it's only 2 years away. That's a scary prospect. It was okay. There were some plot points where I was a bit like, you're kind of being counteracting yourself, I'll say. So minor spoiler, but not really a big spoiler that will affect this book. The sister gets a pretty nasty head wound, and to the point where it's constantly bleeding, and she is hallucinating her dead mother and father. But a couple of chapters later, she's running around like there's no tomorrow and nothing's wrong with her. It's also about the fact that she tries to hide her son as a daughter, which I was a bit like... and at one point someone sees a preteen child undressing, and they're just like, I'm like you too. And it's like, what the heck? What the heck? I also felt it didn't really delve too much into the mother and sister relationship, which I kind of wanted a little bit more of. So yeah, 3.5 stars. It was okay. It's just not something I would recommend to anyone if they asked me for a recommendation. The next book I read was Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. I gave this book 3.5 stars. The exact same rating I gave A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, which makes me think this may not be the author for me. This book, I will read you the blurb because, yeah, I know this plot kind of still confused me a little bit. Miriam is the daughter of her village's moneylender, but poverty beckons as her father's too kind-hearted to collect his debts. Then Miriam hardens her own heart and takes up his work. Her success creates rumours that she can turn silver into gold, which attracts the Fairy King of Winter himself. He sets her an impossible challenge, and if she fails, she dies, yet if she triumphs, a fate worse than death awaits. Irina's father schemes to wed her to the Tsar. However, their dashing ruler hides a terrible secret, threatening mortals and Winter alike. Torn between deadly choices, Miriam and Irina embark on a quest. It's one that will encompass sacrifice, power, and even love. So, good points, bad points. A couple of good points first. I liked the friendship / family building between Miriam, her parents, and a couple of minor side characters who are important but aren't important. Really weird. I also like the fact that the girls they trick and beat the bad guys. I'll say, although one of them's not bad, it's, again, weird. It was very much like, so you're very much used to a female heroine, but a male helps, and you're like, yeah, they kind of didn't do that on their own. This much, it's very much bad-ass women, to an extent. Still don't like some of the characters, but hey-ho. I also like the burgeoning friendship between Miriam, Irina, and a minor side character, a side character I should say, called Wanda. It was really nice because they're literally, so at the beginning it's Miriam and Wanda know each other through a work relationship. Irina, they've never met, and then it kind of builds, and I like that. The bad points. Miriam and her family are Jewish, and they're made to be seen by a lot of people as the bad guys, because they work with money, they come and collect their debts, they're seen as bad, which I don't like. I found it very, I did find it very stereotypical. To begin with, I didn't realise they were Jewish as moneylenders, and then it comes up and I'm like, that's a stereotype, that all Jews are good with money. Another thing I didn't like is that it would take pages, and I mean pages, into a chapter to realise from whose perspective, but not perspective you're reading from. So this book is third person, but you do follow a certain character. You don't just follow your two main characters, you follow a variety of minor characters as well. To the point where Wanda, the minor character I mentioned before, has two brothers whose names both start with S. and they're always together, and they're always together with Wanda, so it would take you like 3 or 4 pages to realise if you're following Wanda or her 2 brothers. And to me, that was a bit confusing. I also didn't like the open ending for Irina and the Tsar. It's kind of hinted that something happens, but it's like, I want concrete proof. And the last thing I didn't like was, and someone probably will be sat there going, Michelle, I've read this book, I know exactly how this works. If you do, let me know. I have no idea how the magic system works for this book at all. I was literally reading it going, but how does that work? But how does that work? And this is the issue I kind of had with A Deadly Education. I didn't understand the magic. Now, for A Deadly Education, I kind of got it at the start of the series. This is a standalone, so it's kind of like, I need an explanation of how this works if you want me to like it. The next book I read was Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston. I give this book 4.5 stars. This is the last book in the Once Upon a Con series. I hope Ashley does more. It is a Beauty and the Beast based story, and you have a side character from the second book come to the forefront as the main character. In this one, he's kind of always been Hollywood's bad boy, I'll say. You realise that's not the case. You also then have a character who is still struggling with the death of her mother and having to sell a lot of her mother's items to cover her hospital fees and her funeral costs. And yeah, I love this series. It's very much a YA series. I adore it. I just find it so cute and it's wholesome. Ashley's writing's really good. There's not many pages in these. I think, yeah, there's about 280 pages. So it was kind of a quick read for me. I love the characters. I literally, in like a chapter of reading from Rosie, who's one of the main characters, I was like, I love you. You are amazing. I feel you so much. I would die for you. Vance, who was the bad guy but now the good guy in this book, he's a little sweetheart and he's just so misunderstood and he has so much pressure on him, and yeah. So the reason it didn't get 5 stars, that 0.5, was the untouched love story of Rosie's dad and Vance's uncle slash carer slash guardian. It's, yeah, that's not a big spoiler, by the way. It's literally mentioned a couple of times. That's why I didn't like. I was just like, I want that. I need that story, Ashley. Please give me that story. The next book I read was 3 Hours by Rosamund Lupton, and in this book you are following many characters at a school in the south of England where a hostage situation is happening, and you follow them from the start to the end. Many twists that I didn't see coming, many twists that I did see coming. Far too many characters that you follow, as in you literally follow, I think it's about 7 or 8 characters. And I was literally just like, why? And there's like a couple of characters who I really like. So basically there's two refugee characters in this, 2 brothers who have escaped Syria. I love the fact you see their backstory and how they kind of compare it from them fleeing Syria to what's happening now. The storyline of the drama teacher I really enjoyed. Seeing it from one of the police officers' eyes, what's happening from their end, I enjoyed. I didn't need to read about a deputy head who comes up about 4 times. I didn't need to read it from the eyes, I'll say, of another police officer who you don't really need to know of. I don't need to read about so in the library there's like different characters and there's about 4 of them that you see this thing happening from their eyes, and it's like, I don't need that. I think if if the characters had been cut down, I would have enjoyed it more. I also would love for Rosamund to write the story of the 2 brothers fleeing Syria, like literally that's all I'd love a book like that. It did pique my interest about for reading more factual stories about that. So that is something I am definitely going to look into when I get the time. The next book I read is one that is hyped everywhere, and I mean everywhere, and that is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and I gave this book 4 stars. Please do excuse me, I have to get my little reading journal for this because I forget why I liked it and why I didn't. Going to be honest, I went into this book thinking it may be overhyped. I don't have the best relationship with overhyped books, such as A Deadly Education. I was literally just like, I don't understand why people like it so much. Same as Spinning Silver, I didn't understand why people loved it so much. But there are good points and bad points for this book. So the good points, let's start with the good points. I don't know why I struggle with that. Red and Chloe's chemistry is off the charts. I mean off the charts. There are some scenes in here where I had to fan myself, and if I knew that a scene like that was coming and I was reading throughout the day, and it was, because I think I started this on a Friday before work, I would have to stop myself because I didn't want to go back to work with that scene on my head. Full stop. The relationship itself is really cute apart from the miscommunication, which I will get into, and I adore Chloe's grandma. There is a quote I have to say. I didn't highlight this one or anything, but you'll understand hopefully. I have your father, I have you girls, and of course I have my top 10 hit, Hey Mr. Dick Jr., which, if any lawyers or journalists happen to come sniffing around, has what, darling? Absolutely nothing to do with one Richard F. Jameson, who my poor dear grandmother has never even heard of. This woman was angered so much by a man, she wrote a diss track and it became a top 10 hit. She is my idol. I will be looking to her for everything. I absolutely love her. She's hilarious. Her sisters I found a bit annoying, but yeah. On to the bad points. Chloe's stereotyping of Red being a bad boy because he rides a motorcycle and has tattoos. I love the fact that when you read / don't read from Red's view, so basically it's a lot of these books like third person but first person, if that makes sense, he kind of smashes that stereotype straight away. Another thing I didn't like is that it is mentioned that Red goes sees a therapist near the end of this book. It's mentioned once and then kind of brushed aside. While I get Chloe is the main character, and yes, her illnesses are valid and I understand why she is in pain so well, I don't, but I do understand why she's in pain so much. I kind of want to see more of that, of Red dealing with what happened in his past. I just felt it was kind of added just for a bit of a plot point and then nothing was done with it. I know people love this book, so if people want to come at me, let's have a discussion down below. Also, something I mentioned earlier, the miscommunication. Jeez Louise, for apparently functioning adults, these characters cannot talk to each other. I mean, Chloe has this list that she wants to do, when at the start she tells Red what's on it. Red's not on it, obviously, and she changes the list halfway through the book when she realises that she's falling for him. She doesn't tell Red that she's changed the meaning of the list. So when he finds it and finds out that his name's on it and it goes into a big hoo-ha, Chloe doesn't explain. She's just like, oh my gosh, get out. But then he doesn't question her either. And I'm just like, just talk. If you are meant to be functioning adults, talk to each other. Maybe it's my job because I anyone I work with will tell you, if someone asks me what one of the key things to my job is, I say communication. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Even if it's bad news, communicate. If it's good news, communicate. Communicate, my word of the year, of the decade, of my life. But yeah, no, I did enjoy it, apart from obviously them bad points. I know that obviously there are 2 more books following her sisters. I would like to continue this trilogy. I don't think it'll be in time this year because I have my other sequels to finish or get caught up on. So now I'm going on to the books that I read for my 6 books in 6 days challenge. So if you want to know my spoilery thoughts, please go watch that video because I'm not going to go into too much details about these. The first book from that list was Burn Our Bodies Down by Rory Powell, 2.5 stars. Confused the heck out of me, if I'm honest. If it had just stuck to the family secrets, parents not getting on, children not getting on, great. When you brought in this scientific / paranormal element to it, you lost me. You absolutely lost me. The second book in that list of 6 was The Switch by Beth O'Leary, 5 stars across the board. I didn't think I would feel so much reading this book. What happens in this family, I could relate to what's happened to my family. The relationship between the 2 main characters, the grandmother and the granddaughter, I think is adorable, apart from the ending, but that didn't spoil it. It's still 5 stars. Beth's first book, The Flat Share, I loved last year as well. I know she has a road trip coming out this year. I haven't pre-ordered it yet, but I can tell you now, she is becoming one of my go-to authors to read. And from one soon-to-be go-to author to one of my go-to authors, The Island by C.L. Taylor. I gave this book 4 stars. Yeah, it's Callie's, as I call her again. If anyone knows she don't like that name, tell me. It's Callie's second YA book, and I love the fact she doesn't dumb it down, like, really, for YA readers. I would have just enjoyed it more if we saw it from more characters' eyes, and if a certain parent actually parented instead of just brushing things under the carpet. The 4th book in the list of 6 is The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon, the 4th book in the Bone Season series. I give this book 4 stars. I didn't think I would struggle with this book as much as I did. I think that is because I didn't do a reread, but I also think it's partially down to the fact there are so many new characters and some of their conversations are in French and I had to keep Google translating words. I did enjoy going back into the world of Paige and Walden though. There was a few characters from the past who came up and I was like, I did not see them coming back. But then there were a couple of characters where I was like, I kind of saw you coming. The ending shocked me. I have to say the final 100 pages, I loved it. The final 100 pages made this book go from 3 stars to 4 stars. It just means when her 5th book in this series comes out, which I think will be 2023, because it normally takes 2 years between each book, I think I would definitely need a reread of the whole series because I will have forgotten everything most likely. The 5th book in the list of 6 was Casting Firelight by Dana Swift, 4.5 stars. Oh, I did not think I would like this book as much as I did. I thought it's literally got so many tropes and I was like, I will not like this. I adore this book. It did end in a way where you can leave it there and not read the sequel. No, Shelley is pre-ordering that sequel the second she sees it on Waterstones. If the sequel isn't like printed in the UK and it's not on Waterstones, I will petition because I need to know what happens to these characters, because while I haven't fallen in love with them, they made me laugh, they made me giggle. I need more of that in my life. I need to know what happens. And the last book in the book of 6 that I read in that week is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole, 4 stars. So it's a very good premise. The first 2/3 of the book I enjoyed. And then something dumb happened and the last third I was literally just like, huh? seriously, like, there is something in here that has happened for hundreds of years, and all of a sudden it's being picked apart by one thing. Yeah, I would have to say though, I do have to say, the way it ended, I would like a sequel, not to follow these particular people, but to follow other groups of people that I mentioned, because I would love to know their story. Book number 12 of the month was Witness by Amanda Sue Heller. This was 4 stars. Predictable in places, yes, but the side characters, I have to say, really made it for me. There are some surprises that I don't see coming. It ended the way I thought it would end, yes, but the way it got there I didn't see coming at all, due to the side characters. So you follow a young girl called Holly and her mum basically works nights and has always said to Holly, do not ever open that door, do not talk to anyone, you go to school, you come back, that's it. She lives in a block of flats of her mum. There is an old lady upstairs where it strongly smells of weed. She has another neighbour who looks like Zayn Malik, apparently, who you think's a bit of a bad boy, but is really not. And across the road, in a row of houses, one of Holly's neighbours is getting beaten up by her partner, and her neighbour become friends, and they try and solve this mystery that happened a few years ago. Like I said, really enjoyable. Yes, a bit predictable, but there was some twists where I was like, huh? The twist with the upstairs neighbour. I would love a book on her life, because I was literally reading it going, I'm sorry, I'm what? Sorry, what? I know Amanda Sue does have other books in her backlist, so I am thinking I will pick some of them up, because like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thriller books are kind of my go-to genre, so yeah, definitely one for the future. And the last book I read in the month of February was 7 Lies by Elizabeth Kay. I give this book 2 stars. I don't think I have hated, and I will say the word hated, a main character more than I have this main character. So you followed 2 best friends, and they've been best friends since secondary school, and then one of their husbands dies, and she's basically, the best friend is trying to convince you that she didn't do it, and she tries, and you basically follow 7 lies she's made throughout her life that has led to this situation happening. Oh gosh, I agree with everyone on Goodreads, she is a psycho. She has no emotion, she doesn't care who she hurts. At one point, spoiler, she thinks of harming a baby, a newborn baby. That just cemented my hate for it, and to be honest with you, when I could see it coming, I was literally like, if she attempts to do what I think she's going to attempt to do, no, I nearly DNF'd the book at that point, but literally it was like, I had like 20 pages to go, so I didn't. I know that's a sign of a good writer, that she can get you to hate the main character you are following, but I just couldn't get past the hate. And also the side characters I thought were really stupid for really smart people. There's a reporter in here who's investigating the murder, and she gets so close, but she doesn't do anything. She just like threatens, like, I know there's more to this story. I know there's more to this story. She doesn't do anything with it. She finds out clues that could lead to the best friend's arrest. Does she go to the police? No, she's going to keep hold of it. She's going to come and threaten the best friend with this information, very vaguely, by the way, because she wants a story. Go to the police. If you have evidence of a crime, go to the police. Do not try and threaten the person who has done this crime, especially if you think they've murdered someone. Hello, if you think they've murdered their best friend's husband, you, a reporter who are trying to find them out, do not think she's going to try and come get you. She doesn't, by the way. I wish she would. I probably would have liked this book a lot more, but yeah, 2 stars. And that was my... And that right there is my month of February. A good month. Like I said, I read 5 more than I planned to do, which means I am 5 books ahead of my target for Goodreads. Well, I was when I finished, which is good. I did buy 20 books last month, so That does mean I am +7 more than I read, but hey ho, that wasn't always a plan of mine to read as many books as I bought, because I knew there was no way I could do that. But if I could do it, it'd be great. So my average reading daily was 205 pages, which was pretty great. I think in the month of January it was 170, I think. So that was good. But yeah, that was my February month. Have you read any of the books I've read this month? Do you agree with my thoughts? Do you disagree? Comment down below. I'd love to talk. Beth, who I have mentioned, I will link her video down below. She is great. Go follow her if you haven't, because she's amazing. I will link my socials down below like normal. And until next time, bye guys.